Well, hello Internet and welcome to my Visual Basic tutorial. You guys have asked me to cover Visual Basic, and since it's one of the only languages I haven't covered, I thought it would be fun to jump in and cover it over the next couple videos. In this tutorial, we're going to be covering GUI design, event handling, data types, some math, exception handling, input and output, casting, message box, and a whole bunch of other different things. On top of that, I will be also working with the newest version of Visual Studio, which is version 2017, which is free to download. And there's a link in the description to all the code that I use in this video, as well as a transcript, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so what you're going to want to do first is get Visual Studio 2017. Now this says release candidate. That will change to just regular Visual Studio 2017, and where you get it for free is at visualstudio.com/vs/visual-studio-2017-RC. And this is extremely easy to download. It doesn't have any of the problems that 2015 had, and all you're going to do is just click on free download, click on next a whole bunch of times, and you will be ready to go. Then after you have that all installed, you're just going to come in. I'm using Windows 10 here, and you're going to find Visual Studio 2015, and there it is right there, Visual Studio 2017. And the RC might not be there for you, or it might be there, and if you're doing this right now, obviously it is. So what we're going to do here is we are going to create a new project. So we're just going to come up here and go File and New Project. And I am going to use Windows Forms app. So you're just going to select that guy right there. And you're going to come down here and you're going to give it a name. I'm going to call this VB-Tut1 and click on OK. And it is going to open up a little form here for you. Over here, you're going to find all of the different values you're going to be able to change for all of your different components. The currently selected one is the form, and you'll be able to change all kinds of things there, and I'm going to be creating obviously some forms. And then down here you're going to see all of the different things you're going to be able to drag and drop into your form. So what we're going to do first off is I am going to get a label. So I'm going to grab this label right here. Did I grab it? No, I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to drag it up here and drop it inside of there. And you can see, yes, indeed, it is called Label 1. You might want to view this full screen. Now, as that is selected, I'm then going to come over here and I'm going to give it a name that's going to make sense. So I'm going to call this Label Name, LBL Name. It is very common to use the LBL for labels inside of Visual Basic whenever you're laying out these different components. And I am going to come down here and also I'm going to pick a size for this. So 39 by 13. Let's change that. Let's just leave it that way. That's perfectly fine. Also, you're going to have the text here. I'm going to change this to something that makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to type in name and hit enter. And that's all I'm going to do. And now you can see up here inside of our form that we have a label and name is inside of it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little text box. So let's just scroll through here. There is a text box right there. I am going to grab it. Oop, did I grab the right thing? Yes, I did. Alright, so I'm going to grab the text box and I'm going to throw it next to the label that I have here. And let's go and give it a name. So we're going to come over here once again to the properties for our component. And I'm going to come in, and very often when you're using text box, it is common to start the name off for that with txt. And I'm just going to call it text name. And I'm not going to put anything in the text area, so let's just leave that blank. Over here for size, let's change that to say something like 208. And the height, let's just leave that at 20. So just hit enter. And now you can see there is our label and there is our text box. And we'll be able to grab it and drag it and move it around if we'd like to as well. Now I'm going to add a couple more, a little bit more functionality here. I'd say I'd like to get a button. So I'm going to grab a button and I'm going to drag it and drop that button right there. What are we going to do? We're going to come over and we are going to give it a name again. So come over here, and it's common to start the button components off with BTN. I'm going to call this BTN OK. Come down inside of here, and for the text for my button, I'm going to change that to OK. And let's say that I would want to have a shortcut for this button that would allow me to just click on the O on my keyboard, and that would automatically be the same as if I would clicked on it. I can do that by just typing in an and then OK like that. And let's change the size on this guy a little bit. Let's have 75, 23. Well, let's just leave it that way. All right, so we can just click on enter, and you can see now that it says OK there. Now you're going to also be able to go and get these components and copy and paste them. So you got another component here. Let's say that I want to create 3 of them. Just paste this again, come in here, and then let's go and click on this one, and we'll have it do something a little bit different. Let's change its name to txt and message. This is going to open up a message box on our screen here very, very soon. Come down inside of this guy, and what we're going to do for this is say that we want them to be able to type in an M on the keyboard. So go and M and just type in message. Keep the size exactly the same. Don't need to change anything else there. Jump over here to the 3rd button and zoom in on this. And I guess I didn't really say, basically, I get all excited whenever I was making this. Basically, Visual Basic is really cool because it provides an easy way to make pretty complicated GUI applications. And it's also very often used to interface with databases. And by understanding the basics of Visual Basic, you'll also be able to use something else called Visual Basic for Applications, which is a scripting language you can use with a whole bunch of different applications in the Microsoft Office suite. And the major attraction of Visual Basic is it allows you to create applications by just what you see here, just by dragging and dropping components, and it requires very little code, as you'll see also here in a second. So I got all excited and started just playing with it, and I didn't talk about why Visual Basic is cool. Alright, so we're going to call this guy button exit. Come down inside of here, and the text that we want to put inside of here. Let's say that this time we want them to be able to click on X on the keyboard. Just go and exit like that, and there we go. So there is our basic form that we have here, and now we're going to make it do some stuff. Now basically what we want to do is we want whenever they click on the OK button for some stuff to happen. And basically what we're going to do is they're going to come in here, they're going to type in their name, they're going to click on the OK button, and then the information inside of this text box is going to change from just their name to say hello, whatever their name is. Alright, so if you want to add what's called an event handler, which just means when an event occurs, like this button being clicked on, that event's going to be handled and something is going to be done. It's very easy in Visual Basic. You just double click on this and look at that. Now you're able to come in here and automatically have it do some stuff. Now all of the code that you see here inside of this class for your form that you have here is going to define what happens with your form. And what we're specifically going to do here is define how to handle different events like mouse clicks and things like that. Now this guy right here is known as a subroutine, and it is not going to return any values. It is just a regular old guy that's going to do things whenever that button is clicked on. And the code that is inside of this subroutine is going to run every single time that button is clicked on. So what we're going to do here is we want to refer to this text box over here. And remember that its name is, let's click on the text box. Here is the text box, and its name is text name. So what we want to do is go and get the value that is inside of there, and which is going to be the person's name, and we want to change it whenever the button is clicked on. So to do that, we just type in text name and dot text, and if we want to change the text that's inside of there, we can say that it will be equal to now hello, put a space, and then if you want to concatenate or join strings, you just put an and inside here like this, and we can get the name that is already in there and replace it with a new hello name. And to do so, you just go and use text once again. So it's pretty simple stuff. And we can save that, and we can jump over here. Doesn't really matter if we do. And if you want to run your application, just click on Start right up here. And here is our application, pretty simple. And I can just type in Derek like that and click on OK, and you can see that it now prints out hello Derek. Okay, so let's go and add some more functionality here. That was pretty simple. Let's do something else. Let's say down here, whenever they click on message or they click on the M, remember, that's going to be allowed for us. Let's say we want to open up a message box and once again say hello. So just double click on that. You can see it automatically went and created that for us here. And to open up a message box, all you do is type in message box.show. And let's say, let's just keep this simple. We'll say that we want to have it say hello and then go and text name and get the text that is in the text box inside of there. And then if we also want to put a message at the top of our message box, we could do so here with after that comma. So we'll say hello, and we'll just be boring and do the same thing again. So we'll say text name and text, and we can save that. You can see didn't take much code. Click on start, and now we have new functionality once again. So now we'll come in here and we'll type in Derek, and click on message, and there is our message box. All right, so there's something else we can do, and let's keep on going. Now let's go and say we want to make the exit functionality work, and all this is going to do is close our application when it's clicked on. And to close it, all you have to do is say me.close like this, and you can see that's going to work, and we can run it, and there it is. And if we just click on exit, you're going to see that it closed. That's it. All right, so that's how we open applications, and that's how we close applications. Now let's come in here and do some things that are a little bit more complex. Again, we'll open up our little form that we have here, and we're going to throw some new little things inside here. I'm going to come down inside of my toolbox and grab a text box, and I'm going to throw this here. This is going to do some adding and subtracting of different values. We'll come over here, scroll up here, and we're going to call this text box txt add value 1. And let's change a couple things. It's not going to have any text inside of it. We are definitely going to change the size of it though. Let's go and change our width to 55 and just leave that be 20 like that. And there you can see it's a little bit smaller. Now we can also come in and add a button inside of here. So let's go and get a button, drag that up there, drop it inside of there. And the button we're going to call btn add values. And what this is going to do is it's going to take two different values, it's going to add them and then put a result on our screen. So we'll go and scroll down here, and the text inside of here is going to be a plus, and the width definitely doesn't need to be that big. Let's change it to 23 just like the height is currently, and there you can see is a little addition button there. Once again, we can grab this. Oh, we can also click on it and go and click with our arrow buttons. So up to move that into a position that makes a little bit more sense. And let's grab another little text box inside of here. Drag it, drop it up inside of there. And it doesn't really matter where it goes, because like I said, you can go and click around, move it around with your little keys. And let's go and give this a different name. So we're going to call this text add value 2. Pretty simple. It's not going to have any different, not going to have any text inside of here. Let's go and scroll down a little bit more. And the width on this guy, let's also have that be 55. And right there was be where you would put your text. There's so many different things you can do here. And that looks pretty good. So now what are we going to do? Well, I think I'm going to go and get myself a label that's just going to be an equal sign. So we'll come down here in our toolbox, and there's a label, and we'll drag it up here. Whoops, what'd I do? There we go. Drop that there, move it down into position. Let's go and change the name on this to LBL add equal, and it's not going to do anything. That's why it's a label. And scroll down to the bottom. Let's change the text on this to just be an equal sign. And let's change the size on this guy to 13. Let's just leave it be 13. Alright, so there's our label. Alright, so now what we need to do is have another text box here that is going to allow us to display the answer. So we'll come down again, text box, drag it, drop it right there, come over here, and scroll inside of here. And we're going to call this text sum answer. And scroll down. The size for this obviously needs to be smaller, so let's change this to a width of 55. And the text inside of there, let's just leave that have nothing inside of it once again. Okay, so there you go. Not the prettiest looking thing ever, but I just want to demonstrate a whole bunch of different things here. So now what's going to happen is the user is going to be able to type in a number, type in another number, hit a plus sign, and the answer is going to show up right there. So to add that event handling functionality to the little button we have here, just double click it, and you can see it's right there. Now very often whenever we are working with events, there is the potential that an error could occur. So let's say, for example, somebody goes and hits that plus sign, but they didn't put a number inside of the two text boxes we have. Or they put a letter inside of there. We obviously can't add letters. So what we want to do is potentially stop any error that could occur. How you do that is with exception handling. So what we're going to do is go try to do something that could potentially cause an error. And then inside of here, we're going to go and create some different data types. And since I'm here, I might as well just talk about some data types. All right. So there are a whole bunch of different data types inside of Visual Basic. I just want to talk about some of them. There are oh, by the way, if you want to make a comment, which is just going to be a line of text that's going to be completely ignored by our interpreter here inside of Visual Basic, you just put a single quote and then type stuff out and it'll be ignored. Now you have integers, and they are going to hold values of, it's like 21474483648. So that's going to be the smallest number. And then the largest number you're going to be able to hold inside of an integer data type is going to be that guy right there. So there is no decimals, and it's just going to be, they're whole numbers. That's what an integer is. It's the same in every programming language. Then another data type, if you need to hold a number that's even bigger than that, is a long. And you can see how big a long can be, quite large. Another data type that you're going to use a lot is a decimal. And they are quite large. You can see plus or minus this gigantic number is going to be the types of numbers you're going to be able to work with in regards to decimals. And another thing that's great about decimals is that they are precise to 29 decimal places. You're also going to have doubles, which are going to be, and this is integer, not integers, whenever you define it. I'm going to create some variables here in a second. Then you have doubles, and they are also going to be quite large, extremely large numbers. The only problem with a double is that it is not precise. That's why inside of Visual Basic you should normally use decimals and not doubles. And by the way, these decimals are going to have the ability to have decimal places inside of them. They are floating point numbers instead of whole numbers like you have with integers and longs. And another data type you're going to have is going to be a Boolean. And a Boolean is either going to have a value of true or false. And you should never try to save anything else in a Boolean except for the values of true or false. And for now, that is all I'm going to cover in regards to the different data types available. We'll get more into them here later on, however. All right, so back inside of here. Now, basically what we want to do is we want to create two variables. And a variable is just going to be a place we can temporarily store data, a value. So to create a variable, you type in dim, which is short for dimension, which is like referring to the size of the data that you want to be working with. I could get more into the specifics of what the dim means, but there's no reason to get confusing. So if you want to create a variable, just type in dim. Then you're going to give it a name. So I'm going to say first number, and then I'm going to define what type of data type it's going to be. So this is going to be as an integer, because I don't need it to be a huge number. And whenever you are pulling data from a form like we have over here, we're going to be pulling this data, first number, from this guy right here. Whenever you're pulling that information, it's going to come in as a string. We want to convert it from regular old characters to an actual integer. And to do that, you need to cast it. So it's going to be changed from a string into an integer. To do that, you type in CINT like this. And then to get the value that is currently stored inside of there, you're going to refer to it by the name that I defined for it over inside of our form wizard. And to get that, you then type in text and you have it. But we can't settle with that. We also need to get the second number that they entered in. So we're going to come in here and we'll call this second number, just to keep that simple, and we will change this to value 2. Now we want to come in here because we want to output our result, so we're going to create another variable, and this is just going to be called sum, and we want to go and add the first number plus the second number. And whoops, what did it do? Second number, and there that is. And now we need to convert the integer into a string so that we can save it back into our result. And the name for our result, let's just click on this again, is going to be this guy right here. So that guy right there. And if we come over here and look at the name, its name is text sum answer. So let's just back over here again. So text sum answer. And if we want to change the value for it, see if you can remember what that's going to be. It's going to be text. And then we want to convert from a integer into a string. So we're going to type in C, str, and sum, right like that. And if you're wondering how to convert into the other different data types, you would use cBEOL. That is going to convert any value into a Boolean. You're also going to be able to convert into a double with cDBL. You're also going to be able to convert into a decimal with cDEC and a long with LNG, like that. So those are the different ways to convert into the different types that you would want to work with. All right, so that is all that we need to do with this inside of this try block. That's going to be all the potential problems. Remember, like I said, if they didn't enter something, or if they entered a letter or something that wasn't a number, this is going to catch that potential problem. Now, the error that I am going to probably have here is what is called an invalid cast exception, which means it is going to be an exception in which I'm trying to cast something like a string that would be a character, for example, into a number. Can't be done. That throws an exception, so I want to catch it. Now this one that pops up down here is the default. That is going to be triggered if I don't catch the specific exception that occurred or the specific error that occurred. So inside of this, I am going to have a message box open up, and I'm going to say message box dot show, and because I didn't catch this error, I'm going to say an unknown error occurred. And then remember, I can go and put a title inside of here across the top, and I'm just going to type in error right there. Now, it's not good to not have any idea what your exception is. You want to use something that is specific. So I'm going to say what I expect to occur, which means they typed in a letter or left nothing inside of there. And in that situation, I would get an exception that is referred to as system. And you're going to learn these exceptions just by making errors. And the errors are going to show up down here in this general area right there. So that's how you're going to learn them. So don't worry about not knowing them. And the one that I'm expecting to occur is invalid cast exception. And then for this guy, I'm just going to come down here, and I'm going to have a message box open, but this one is going to be more specific. And what it is going to be is, please enter numbers to sum. And I can just leave error be there inside of there. Another thing that's kind of cool is if you would like to print out information in your console for debugging purposes, you could also come down here and print to the console by going console, write line, and you could just do something simple like an error occurred, just to throw something down there just to show you how to write down here in your console window as well. And then after this, you're going to see end try. That ends our try block where we could have potential problems. And then we'll have end the subroutine. That's what the sub part stands for. So we can save that and we can run it as long as we didn't do anything wrong. And there it is. So let's bring this guy right here. And we're going to type in a 4 and a 5 and hit plus. And you can see that it printed out the answer there. However, let's say that I typed in an A here and hit plus. It is going to open up a window that says please enter numbers to sum. I can click on OK. You're also going to see right here is the exception that was thrown. Exception thrown, system invalid cast exception. See, told you that's where we could get that information. And that is the gist of what we could do with this guy. So we're going to click on exit and exit out of there. All right, so pretty cool stuff. Now let's go and create another one just so I can show you an additional way to cast as well as another example of a math function we could use. Remember, we can just copy all of this. I'm just holding down the shift key to select multiple components at once. Copy and paste. Saves us a little bit of time. Come in here, and then we just need to give these different names. So I'm going to come over here, select this guy, and I'm going to call this text divide value. 1. Leave everything else be exactly the same. Come in and click on this guy. This is going to be a button. So button, and what do I want? Let's just say button divide values, and we want to come down into the text area inside of here and change that from a plus to a division, and enter, and that's all set up. Select the next little text box that we have right there. Come over here and we will say text and divide value 2, and we don't need to do anything else with that. And the equals sign here, which is a label, I'm going to select that and go label divide equal. And it's always good to give every single component a good name, because you know it's a good idea. All right, and because at some point in the future, if you just let random things go in there, you're going to get random answers and not have any idea what's going on. And then I'm going to select the last part here, which is where my answer is going to show up. Come over here, select this guy, and we'll call this text division answer, just to put something inside of there. And we don't need to do anything else with that, and hit enter, and there we're ready to go. So now we want to add some event handling functionality to this division button here. So double click on it. You can see it opened up for us. And here we're going to be working with decimals instead. So I'm going to go dim, and let's just call this first num as decimal. And remember, we like decimals because they are precise numbers. And what I want to do here is I want to convert from a string into a decimal. And let's go text divide value 1, and to get the text that's in that text box, you just type in .text, and we'll go and copy this guy, and we'll paste that there. We'll go and get our second number and change this to value 2, because that's what I called that, and there we are. Everything else is perfectly fine. And now, just to do something different, what I want to do is divide these decimals and then convert the answer into an integer. So how do we do that? Well, we can do it in a different way, what is referred to as the C-type function. So I'm going to call this int solution, and remember, I want it to be an integer, is going to be equal to, and you can type in C-type and then convert into multiple different values. Here, I could do this division outside of here and then just put the variable name inside of there, or I can put it inside of here. Just wanted to show you different ways to do it. So we're going to say first number is equal to second number, and division, and then what we want to do is get the answer for that division and convert it into an integer, and that's what C-type is going to do for us. It's going to allow us to define, do we want to convert it into an integer or some other data type. And then finally, to go and put the answer back inside of our form, we can go text division answer dot text is equal to, we want to convert it back into a string, so go C string, int solution is the guy that we want to be working with here. And if we save it and we run it, let's go and see what happens. So we'll come in here and we'll do a division. So remember, this accepts decimals, so we'll say something like 5.5 whatever, and divided by 4, and click on the division, and you can see 1 comes back there. We could also convert this, and the reason why is because I said I want the integer result to show up here. That's what this guy does right there. And we can convert that into a 2 and hit that, and you can see that a 3 comes back, and the reason why a 3 comes back is because it gets this value and it rounds it up whenever it converts it into an integer. Alright, so there you go, guys. That is a whole heck of a lot of stuff about Visual Studio as well as Visual Basic in general. And I'm going to be making a whole bunch of other different videos and getting into the meat of the language as this tutorial continues. It's not going to be a huge tutorial. I plan on probably making about 6 videos, just enough to cover what you would learn about Visual Basic in a standard 300-page book. So like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.